We have cows. Well, not today, so this is kind of backfired for the initial intro to the video, but normally we have cows here, so this would have been a good spot to start. Just wanted to get that out of the way early, as if you're an Alberta beef person thinking about moving to Nanaimo, you're gonna be fine. But there's a few other things worth knowing before you make the move, and nobody really talks about them. We've helped a lot of families from Alberta relocate to Vancouver Island, Calgary, Edmonton, Airdrie, Red Deer. After a year or two, the same things keep coming up. No regrets, of course, but things that nobody told them that would have been really good to know. So here is the full picture. We're gonna start with the weather. Everybody asks us about the rain before they move here. Yes, it rains, especially November through February. Even June is called Junuary sometimes, although this June, we're doing pretty good. But here's what Albertans actually say about their first winter. The rain wasn't the hard part, the gray was. Weeks of overcast skies, that flat, diffused light that just sits on everything from December to March. That's the adjustment most people didn't see coming. Now the flip side, no shoveling, no block heater, no window scraping at 7 a.m. We've had clients text us in January saying, hey, we just went for a walk in a light jacket. That part, who doesn't love it? The moss growing on everything, the damp feeling in older homes, those take a bit of getting used to. One thing we can say with confidence, that cowboy hat stays in the closet from November to March. You'll want a decent raincoat. Trade that cowboy hat for an Arc'teryx, even if it's just temporarily. For most people, this trade-off works out just fine. The next thing we'll talk about is how Nanaimo feels smaller than it is. Nanaimo does have around 100,000 people. It's not a small city, but it still feels like one. There's no dense downtown core the way Calgary or Edmonton has. It's more spread out, more of a collection of neighborhoods than one connected urban center. Is that a problem? Well, it depends on who you ask. For a lot of Alberta families, that's actually part of the appeal. Less hustle, more breathing room. But if you're coming here expecting a full big city experience, restaurant variety, late night options, packed streets, you'll want to reset those expectations before you arrive. And this is actually why understanding different neighborhoods in Nanaimo matters too. The north end feels completely different from the south end. Old City feels very different from Departure Bay. Some areas are quiet and residential, others have more walkability. And that's one of the reasons we put together the Nanaimo Neighborhood Guide on our website. It's not flashing, but it gives you a real feel of how different areas compare before you make a move. We'll link it below. Another thing to note is the ocean becomes normal. When Alberta families first arrive, the ocean is a big deal. Walks at Piper's Lagoon, Neck Point at low tide, watching the ferries come and go from downtown. And then something interesting happens. A year in, they're still doing it. It doesn't wear off, and that's pretty unusual. A lot of lifestyle features people move for end up becoming invisible after a while. The ocean tends not to do that. On a calm evening when the light hits the Strait of Georgia in a certain way, it still stops people mid-sentence. It's not something we say to sell you on moving here. It's just that we hear from people who made the move and we feel it ourselves. In fact, recently I added myself to a list where whale sightings come up, and I find myself looking at it daily and trying to plan when I can get to a beach to hopefully spot an orca or a humpback. So stuff like that, you just don't get tired of. How about the commutes in daily life? Well, Alberta buyers often come expecting the commute to feel different. Deerfoot style traffic, half an hour to get across town, icy winter driving conditions. Nanaimo doesn't work that way. Most parts of the city are 10 to 20 minutes apart. Cross town in under 25 minutes on most days. We're more known for the number of traffic lights than gridlock traffic. The only things that really back up is when a ferry unloads, and that's just a short window through the day. And we hear this a lot from people after they've settled in. I didn't expect to get my evenings back. When you're not spending that time in a car, you notice it pretty quickly. For families with kids, for people who want to actually use what this island offers, that daily time adds up. Next thing people wish they knew is that the ferry is a bigger deal than you think. This is one of the most underestimated parts of moving to Vancouver Island. Before the move, most people think of the ferry as a fun part of island life. I was there myself. When I first moved here, everybody was complaining about the ferry, and I thought, oh, what are you talking about? It basically slows everything down. You stop, you get a triple O burger, you watch outside for some whales. It's quite enjoyable. It feels like a short cruise. After the move, it becomes a logistical reality. Ferry costs add up, reservations during peak seasons fill up fast, and when you're trying to get to a flight or appointment on the mainland, you have to plan around the sailing schedule. It's not a deal breaker for most people, Plenty of families make it work every week, but if you travel to the mainland more than once or twice a month, the ferry needs to be part of your budget and your planning. You'll either get really good at it or you'll spend entire days waiting in a parking lot. Most people figure it out eventually. Healthcare. This is another one we get asked about consistently. Finding a family doctor in Nanaimo can take time and can be quite challenging. That's not unique to Nanaimo, but it's real across Canada, and it's real when you're moving from one area to another and have to give up your current family doctor. If you're currently with a GP and you're coming from Alberta, that transition really matters. It's worth looking into this before you move, not after. Walk-in clinics exist and they can help you bridge the gap. Nanaimo Regional General Hospital handles emergencies. Specialists are available, but wait times can vary. We're not here to scare anyone, but we've seen people caught off guard by this more than once, and it's worth going in prepared. Another surprise is that the pace is different. There's something called the island bubble, and it is a real thing. Life here moves at a different pace than most of Alberta. Less urgency, more emphasis on lifestyle over productivity. People leave work and actually disconnect. For some Alberta families, that's the whole reason they came. For others, especially people who are energized by a faster, more ambitious environment, that adjustment can be harder than expected. Neither is wrong or right. It's just worth asking yourself which environment you actually thrive in. The cowboy hat does not retire, it just gets a season off. And for a lot of people, that's kind of the point. Now for the food and beef situation, as Albertans take great pride in their Alberta beef. One more thing Alberta families tend to appreciate pretty quickly, the food culture here does punch above its weight for a city of this size. It's no Calgary, but we have a lot of good here. And look, we already covered the cows, although they're not here right now. But if you want beef done right, go find Nesvog's. It's a local butcher in Nanaimo that gets mentioned constantly by people who moved here from Alberta. A bit of a soft landing for anyone who takes their steaks seriously. You might be surprised. Homes are different here as well. A quick note on the streets before we get into housing. They're narrower here. The city and side streets are not as truck friendly as Alberta. There's still plenty of trucks in Nanaimo, just a bit less room to make them go around. And that's worth knowing before you arrive in your fully loaded dually F350. You're gonna be working for it a little bit more. From a real estate perspective, this is a big one. Nanaimo's housing stock is older than what most Alberta buyers are used to. Things like crawl spaces, older electrical systems, septic instead of municipal, strata bylaws on condo, and moisture conditions that come with the coastal climate. So a lot of differences. None of this is a reason to avoid buying here. It's just something we have to adapt to. But it does mean that your due diligence looks a bit different from what you may be used to. We always walk Alberta clients through what to watch for and what to ask before they make an offer. It's just part of how we work. Another thing to note is family feels farther than the map looks. Calgary to Nanaimo doesn't look far on a map, but when you're actually doing it, flight to Vancouver, ferry, or a connection, or sometimes both, it becomes a full day of travel. Most families adjust and build a rhythm around it, visits every few months, the odd long weekend, but it's consistently one of the things people say they underestimated in that first year. You just got to get people to come and visit you here, and with all of this beauty around us, that's not a hard thing to do. Now let's talk about the first year and getting back. This ties into the travel we just talked about. First year is usually the hardest. That's true of any big move, but being separated by water gives it a different feeling. Most people push through it and find their footing, but we won't pretend it isn't a thing. And when you need a break from the gray winter days, keep an eye on the weather back home. If a Chinook is rolling through Calgary, that's usually all the motivation you need. You can book a direct flight right out of the Nanaimo airport and be back in Alberta sunshine before you know it. Or save it for summer and plan the trip back for Stampede. We've seen plenty of people build that into their year. Some things you just don't give up. So the thing we hear most from Alberta families after a year or two isn't that they regret moving it. It's just that they wish they understood the trade-offs a bit clearly beforehand to have their expectations set. Less sunshine, rain in winter, the ferry, finding a doctor, and housing that feels a bit different. But also the ocean, the trails, the mild winters, the slower pace, the lifestyle that pulled them here in the first place. Most of them would make the same choice again. They would just ask a few more questions before they did. So if you're in your research phase of the move to Nanaimo or Central Vancouver Island, that's exactly where we can help. We work with a lot of relocation clients and we're pretty good at giving people the full picture, not just the highlights. The Nanaimo Neighborhood Guide is linked below, or just reach out directly. We're happy to talk through where you're at. No pressure, just a conversation. Thanks so much. Bye for now. Well, we didn't get cows, but we got a farmer coming by with his tractor. So hey, we have tractors here.